pounds or more. Testing and isolating are vital to stopping the spread of coronavirus. Because this is so important, the government is now providing financial support for those who need it whilst self-isolating. You could be eligible for a £500 support payment if you're on low income and are unable to work because you're self-isolating. Find out if you're eligible at gov.uk/coronavirus. Break the cycle of infection, not the law. Stay alert. Control the virus. Save lives.
At Lidl, we don't just back British farming, we really back it. That's why 100% of our fresh milk, butter, eggs, cream, chicken, pork and beef comes from British suppliers. And Lidl have even committed to investing £15 billion into British food and farming over the next 5 years. Because we believe in little changes for the better.
Divorce. It threatens the things you've worked hard for in more ways than you can imagine. Your home, savings, pension, and most of all, your relationship with your children. Don't let divorce in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic cost you any more than it has to. We're available to consult via video conference, phone, or in person where possible and safe. Cordell & Cordell. Our focus is on helping men in matters relating to divorce. Visit cordellcordell.co.uk.
I've watched you drive too fast, just because we're a bit late.
I've seen you driving too close to the car ahead when we're on the way to school. I've noticed when you try and make the lights, even when they're amber.
I thought you go too fast, so I get pushed back in the seat.
And I've seen you slam on the brakes to avoid hitting someone.
Dad! Watch your speed. Everyone else does.
To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Ferrari at breakfast on LBC. 20 minutes after 7 is the time. Let's quickly go through the front pages. Mark, you'll be the first caller in a moment. I know that you're from Preston, so there's possibly an area that's under threat. Front page of the Daily Mail, and I noticed that I've singled them out probably most, at least for half, if not more, this week, because they seem to have had a selection of really hard-hitting, powerful front pages. They talked today again, and in fact one of my contributors mentioned it, didn't they? The crippling toll of COVID rules. That figure that I've mentioned already, more than 110,000 of you waiting more than 12 months for treatment. That's 100 times greater than it was prior to COVID. That is, I would suggest, the true cost. The Times, vulnerable face months of having to stay indoors. They're picking up on that line. A nice one from the Metro, which of course is the most read, not the best selling because it doesn't sell, but it's taken up Metro. It's all ending in tears. This is the idea, this traffic by a system of tears and curbs. The lbc.co.uk, give us a break, show us the science and the proof. That seems to make sense as well. The anger up north is the front page of the Eye. Chief medics warning to the north. The Daily Telegraph looks at aspects of the problem that the NHS is facing. I mentioned earlier, NHS drive to ensure non-COVID sick get help. I don't know how they're going to manage to do that. Northern Fury is the Daily Mirror, one very much a big-selling newspaper. Locky horror is the front page of the Sun, reflecting the anger of pub owners and restaurateurs. The Financial Times has the story we'll do in about 10 minutes plus time. EasyJet asking for help as it handles its first annual hit or loss in 25 years, a quarter of a century. The Guardian newspaper has experts saying the new COVID restrictions don't go far enough. And the Daily Express, I have to say, is just not necessarily fully in support of the country. Listen to us, the majority support tougher lockdowns. The majority of Britain supporting further lockdown restrictions, according to an opinion poll by the newspaper. I wonder if they ask restaurateurs and pub owners and others and people whose businesses might collapse. It's all very well sitting at home with 80% of your salary on furlough, which, by the way, ends in 20 plus days. The realities we'll see there. Mark's in Preston. Mark, what do you say? Good morning.
Hi, Nick. Thanks for taking my call.
Not at all.
To be honest, I think it's absolutely nonsense. Why would you close pubs, bars and restaurants? I really don't understand this. So I've got 4 restaurants in Preston.
Oh, have you? Right, okay.
The first one being, if they close, they definitely need to give notice. Not like last time, by 3 p.m. on a Friday, so right, they've got to be closed by the end of tonight.
Yeah.
Just before Mother's Day weekend, where you're fully stocked up because you're going to be fully booked all weekend.
Of course.
The amount of food waste, the amount of beer waste, that no one's going to insure you for. restaurants alone, you're talking £5,000-6,000, and
Sure.
yes, I've got 4 restaurants, but they're all, we're small. We're a small business.
What would it mean to you if you're put on this so-called red system, if these restrictions, these tougher restrictions are brought in next week? Mark?
I'm not too worried about what it means for me, Nick. One thing I did say over the whole lockdown is the only thing that affected me when we were closed is I was losing out because I had to pay rent, and that was it. The furlough scheme was brilliant, and it was great that all my staff had the comfort that we were able to pay their mortgages and feed the kids. You know what I mean? And they need to release something if this is going to happen. They need to say, right, guys, this is what we're going to do for your staff. That's my worry, because come Monday, if they close us down, I don't even know how long for, but I will have to turn around to my staff and say, look, guys, I haven't got money to pay you because I don't, and that's not me being greedy and I've got loads of money in the bank. I really don't. So in the last 4 weeks since the rule of 6, our trade's plummeted by probably 40%.
Yeah.
And my costs are still the same, my electric bill's still the same, and my rent and my rates. The only controllable cost is the staff and the stuff that I buy in, but that only makes a proportion of everything that I'd spend on a weekly basis anyway.
I may well speak to you again on Monday, actually, as we know, or certainly on Tuesday, because if they're implemented as of Monday on Tuesday. So if you wouldn't mind, I'll speak to you again, because you're right at the heart of that story, Mark. I wish you well. I hope you have a good weekend. Actually, do you want to name some of your restaurants? So do you want to name them so people can come this weekend?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Go ahead, sir.
Town Pass, 263 Restaurant, Winchester Warehouse, and Weedham River Fork in Preston. What's that, Nick? Just very briefly. That's a very good bar. But just very briefly, Nick.
Sensationally suspended.
As well.
Yep.
Why was it safe to come out last month and give everyone a tenner to spend on food? And this month, when you come into my restaurant, you come in wearing a mask, you get asked to scan the NHS record trace, you will then get asked to sanitize your hands, you'll get taken to your table by a member of staff who's wearing a mask. You'll let me go give it a menu, it's never going to touch it, you'll go in your bin as soon as you're finished with it. You'll eat your food, sat and safe distance from everyone else.
No, I know all the extra measures you are putting in, Mark. We'll talk next week on Must Rule. Good luck to you. There's 4 venues, one of which I won't forget that name in a hurry. Let's hope people pile through the doors. More on that in a moment. Sitting grinning opposite me, I've no idea, is Matthew Thompson, who's going to tell us more about a story that's developed. 5 police officers facing investigation over that stop and search of the British athlete Bianca Williams and her partner. This was, I think it was, I recall, back in July, or certainly a number of months ago. Matthew Thompson reports.
That's it, Nick. 5 police officers to be investigated for misconduct over that stop and search of the British sprinter Bianca Williams back in July. She has accused the Metropolitan Police of racial profiling. She and her partner Ricardo dos Santos were stopped whilst travelling with their baby in West London. And the independent office for police conduct has said it informed the 5 Met officers are subject to a misconduct investigation, which will examine whether the couple were treated less favourably because of their race. Footage, you will remember, Nick, the incident made available in July went viral online after it was posted by former Olympic medalist Linford Christie. Mr. Dos Santos has responded. He said that they were given no notice of this investigation by the IOPC, but they wanted to understand why it was only considering misconduct rather than a serious gross misconduct. And the IOPC says it's reviewed a range of evidence, including video footage, and that it's decided whether to federal for a misconduct investigation. They stress it's only an investigation at this stage, not necessarily mean further action will be taken. The incident was referred to the IOPC and initially been looked at by the Met's Director of Professional Standards, who concluded there was no indication that any of the officers' actions would amount to a breach serious enough to justify disciplinary proceedings. The kinds of things that they will look at with this IOPC investigation will be whether the officers were right to handcuff Ms. Williams and Mr. Dos Santos, whether the car was followed and stopped why it was followed and stopped in the first place, and the accuracy of the officers' accounts of the incident.
Matthew Thompson reporting that story will run and run, I think it's fair to say. Let's go to the US presidential debates. Of course, not long to go now to the vote, but the idea of a virtual debate, well, it's not for the incumbent president.
I heard that the commission a little while ago changed the debate style, and that's not acceptable to us. I beat him easily in the first debate. No, I'm not going to waste my time in a virtual debate. That's not what debating's all about. You sit behind a computer and do a debate. It's ridiculous. And then they cut you off whenever they want.
President Trump speaking to Fox News yesterday. Let's bring into the conversation Christian Whiten, who served as senior advisor to George W. Bush and to Donald Trump and wrote Smart Power Between Diplomacy and War. Okay, Mr. Whiten, you are an advisor. What would your advice have been to the President over a virtual debate? Good morning to you.
Good morning, Nick. Thanks for having me on. I think he did the right thing in saying no way to this. You know, we have a problem with our nonpartisan, and in the U.S., if you ever want to see something that's partisan, just look for the adjective nonpartisan. The Nonpartisan Commission on Presidential Debates now basically doing Joe Biden a favor and saying he could have a virtual debate. You know, he could do this from the comfort of the basement in which he has been hiding for most of the campaign. And, you know, moderators who are almost uniformly biased against Donald Trump, foremost of whom was Chris Wallace, the Fox News host, who did the first presidential debate and also, you know, did a great many favors for Joe Biden, although, frankly, you know, President Trump also did a few favors for Joe Biden in that debate. But, yes, you know, a virtual event which would just be sort of, you know, pointless and void of...
Christian, why? You talk about hiding. Surely it's the President who's gone hiding and that he won't front up on this one.
Well, no, he's demanding a debate. He's just demanding it in person. I mean, Donald Trump is ready to debate in person on October 15th, which is the original scheduled date. His doctor has cleared him to do events beginning this Saturday. He's going to do an event in Florida on Saturday, if they can pull it together, and then one in Pennsylvania, a big rally this weekend. So he's ready to do this in person. He's probably immune to the disease. He's certainly over it. He certainly hasn't had symptoms in a great many days. So, you know, what is Joe Biden afraid of, really?
But might he not still be what we call in this part of a spreader? He might still be contagious as he goes through Pennsylvania or wherever else. Does the President not to be aware of that, need to be aware of that risk, Christian?
You know, that's I think the key issue, and this is a big issue in the campaign, is whether we're going to be terrified and paralyzed by risk in 2020, as frankly some people have for the better part of half a year, or whether we're going to manage risk and make educated choices about it. So they don't need to go and give Joe Biden a kiss on the lips. I think he'll keep his distance. He'll continue to wear a mask until a greater amount of time has passed, unless he's speaking into a microphone and addressing the people. So, you know, we've set a vice presidential debate with 2 layers of plexiglass between the 2 candidates, none between the candidates and the moderators. So that was odd. But, you know, this is something that can be managed.
Well, speaking with you, enjoy your weekend. Thank you, Christian Whiten, former senior advisor to George W. Bush and to Donald Trump, and you've written Smart Power Between Diplomacy and War. So that's the situation regarding COVID, or at least the President's aspect in the United States. Elsewhere in the world?
In Spain, the action was moved to the courtroom where the central government unexpectedly lost its case to impose restrictions on the capital region of Madrid. I'm Rafael Minda in Madrid, and I will tell you more shortly.
Yeah, that's coming up in this hour. Coming up later in the show, he would have been 80 today. Yes, I speak of John Lennon, but how would he be faring? What would the music world look like? And would they have got the Beatles back together just one last time for Live Aid or whatever it might have been? We'll look at that later in the show. 7:31 now, you're listening to Breakfast with me, Nick Ferrari, here on LBC. Time for the news, Simon Conway.
Latest figures show the UK's economy grew by 2.1% in August, significantly below expectations. The pace of recovery slowed from the 6.4% rise in GDP the month before, despite the Eat Out to Help Out scheme. Ministers are reportedly considering plans to tell vulnerable people living in coronavirus hotspots to resume shielding. The advice could be part of a new 3-tier local lockdown system to be outlined next week. Donald Trump's doctor says the president is able to safely return to public engagement tomorrow after his COVID-19 diagnosis last week. Mr. Trump's insisted he's ready to resume election campaign rallies, but has refused to say whether he still has the virus. And the weather, rain will move southwards, sunny spells and heavy showers following, windy and feeling chilly, a high of 15 degrees.
LBC.
The world is facing many challenges that are worsened by climate change, including conflict, the current pandemic and financial insecurity. So thanks to Tear Fund, LBC will be spending next week hearing about the vulnerable communities already feeling the impact. The week will explore the crucial role of a humanitarian worker and when disaster strikes, how people can work together to effectively manage the aftermath and rebuild. All next week, thanks to Tear Fund and LBC.
Hi, I'm Jake, and I'm a cleaner for TfL. We're keeping the transport network cleaner and safer than ever before by regularly spraying all our services with hospital-grade antiviral disinfectant. It kills viruses and bacteria on contact, so the network is as safe as possible for everyone. Please also remember, everyone must wear a face covering at all times, unless you are exempt. We're ready when you are. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
At Lidl, we don't just back British farming, we really back it. That's why 100% of our fresh milk, butter, eggs, cream, chicken, pork and beef comes from British suppliers. And Lidl have even committed to investing £15 billion into British food and farming over the next 5 years. Because we believe in little changes for the better.
Calling all business owners. Need a website for your business? Then the only name you need to know is 123reg. With our new website builder starter tool, simply fill in a quick form and we'll create a site for you in less time than it takes to make a cup of tea. And it's just £1 a month. Terms and conditions apply. Register any domain like .co.uk for just 99p to